Are you afraid of freedom? I wanted to hop on here today and talk about my experience yesterday, my breakthrough that I made with my counselor yesterday. So I'm going to do this a little bit different. And I didn't script out what I was going to say as much because I have the tendency to overthink things. So I just wanted to come on here and let it flow. So let's see how this goes. All right. So are you afraid of freedom? Yesterday, I went to my counselor and she practices this form of therapy called brain spotting. I posted about it a little bit yesterday. It was birthed out of EMDR, which I think a lot more people are familiar with, but brain spotting apparently can be even more effective than EMDR. No shade thrown towards that at all, because I think EMDR is brilliant and amazing. And if you don't know what that is, you can check out that post. It's a therapeutic technique that helps with trauma emotions in a very healing and effective way, right? Okay, so brain spotting is different. I'm not going to get too into the science behind it, mostly because I don't totally understand it. But long story short, she has me look at a pointer. Think of what stresses me out. Look at a pointer, and then she moves the pointer around and says, "Do you feel where do you feel it in your body?" For me, so what I was dealing with was, I told her, I think my main issue right now is that I can't go to bed on time. I stay awake too late at night. And even when all day long, I'm going to bed on time tonight, no later than 11, 10:30 is my goal. And then 10:30 roll around, I'll be I'll eat another meal, because I eat really late. Don't mind me. Or, I want to have some tea, or I still need to twist up my hair, whatever it might be. I somehow end up staying up awake until after midnight every night. And so I told her, I feel like it's a mental block. I feel like I'm holding myself back. And I was kind of just talking about it a little bit. I was I want to work on going to bed on time. I think the deeper root issue is my fear of being well. I've gone through so much healing lately. I don't have the anxiety that I used to have at the level I used to have it. I still struggle with anxiety, but it's not anything like it used to be. I don't have depression like I used to have depression. It's been several months since I've had a day where I just couldn't get out of bed. So I'm experiencing all this healing. My body isn't as achy as it used to be. And so I think my issue with staying up really late at night is that I am afraid of having energy. If I have energy, then what's my excuse for being short with my kids? If I have energy, then what's my excuse for not getting all the chores done? If I have energy, then what's my excuse for not moving things quicker in my job, right? And so in the business that I'm building. So I said, I think that I'm holding on to being tired many years. And the season that I'm in right now, my youngest is 2. She doesn't sleep through the night. So I'm still not, even if I went to bed every night on time, I still wouldn't get the quality sleep that I'll get when she is asleep, when all my kids are sleeping through the night, right? But that's different than the kids being asleep by 8 and me going to bed at midnight. That's not the same thing, okay? So I think so that's why I started off, are you afraid of freedoms? I think I'm afraid to a certain extent of freedom in certain areas. I hide behind the strongholds that I have, right? And some of them I'm strongly holding on to rather than having a hold of me. And so, and then I went into, and I'm afraid that if I get a good night's sleep, then I won't have a reason to not fail, specifically in the business that Kingston and I are building, because I have this imposter syndrome, right? I have this feeling that I know I have stuff to offer, but I have this fear that I'm posing that I don't have it all together. So who am I to share what I know with other people? Well, in all reality, there's not a single human being on earth who has it all together. And every one of us is, at least in a little way, a hypocrite in whatever we're preaching or teaching, right? Unless it's math, I guess. I don't know. But so anyway, we're working on that, right? She says, follow my point. Where do you feel it in your body? I feel it in my throat. When I go to talk to somebody about the vision that I have, the calling that God has on my life, to share how he wants to bring healing physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally to people, whoever they are, whatever they believe. When I go to share that with people, I literally get this feeling in my throat, like almost like a choking feeling. And so I was like, I feel it in my throat. And which is weird for me because I'm not a very somatic person, right? And so so I said, I feel it. She said, do you feel it stronger here? Is it less here? Is it, this sounds woo-woo, but y'all, this is backed by science, okay? So stick with me here. It's really interesting. So I followed this little pointer to where I felt the feeling of like anxiety, I guess, most in my throat, this feeling of being an imposter, this feeling of like just fear of success. My fear is that I'll be successful and getting people on board, getting people into our group, getting people, sharing the stuff with people, and then that I'll let them down. I won't actually be able to provide the value when it's time, when the rubber meets the road. And so where do I feel it? So I found the spot and I stared at her little pointer for like 30 minutes while listening to bilateral music. This sounds so weird, but I'm telling you, it worked. I stared at that freaking pointer for like 30 minutes while listening to bilateral music and thinking about my all of that, everything I just explained. Do you know? She didn't say a word. I didn't speak to her. I just stared at this doggone pointer where the feeling of in my throat of imposter syndrome, anxiety, fear of success, fear of freedom, all that was where I felt it in my body, right? Found it in my body. Stared at the pointer. And I started thinking first I started thinking about the thoughts that I have. Like, I'm gonna disappoint people. I'm gonna let everyone down. I'm not as well as I could. Like, I'm not perfect. Who am I to share this with other people? Why did God call me to do this? All these different things. I'm thinking about the anxiety riddled thoughts, right? And then I started thinking, why do I think this way? Like, where does this even come from? So I started thinking like back into my past. I'm like, it occurred to me, I've always felt like an imposter. My whole life, I felt like an imposter. I'm gonna try to recall all the revelations I had because I didn't write them all down in my notes, but I've always felt like an imposter. First off, I feel like, and I'm not gonna share everything because some of it is my business, okay? So, but the one that really stuck out was like, I never felt like I fit in with the Black community. I never felt like I fit in with the white folks, okay? That was a real one. Somebody out there can relate to it, okay? So I'm just gonna be real about that. I have a Black family. My mom and my dad are Black, but all the way through high school, some of my friends I had for years were like, oh, we always assumed your dad was white. Why? Well, because you talk like you're white. You like country music. You date white boys. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay? So I felt like an imposter. I never felt like I fit in with either community because my Black friends would say the same thing. Like, why do you talk like that? Where are you from? I worked at Outback in Hazelwood. Raise your hand if you worked at Outback in Hazelwood. And every day, someone would come in and say, where are you from? Okay, or they would come in and say, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? Where you stay at? Okay. Here. Why do you ask? Oh, because you don't talk like you're from here. Well, we are in Outback in Hazelwood and I live in Hazelwood. I grew up in Hazelwood. Okay. So I always feel like an imposter because I never fit in, right? There were a couple other ways I felt like an imposter too, but like I said, my business. So that was, and I'm trying to save time. So I sat with that, right? And I just realized I identify with being an imposter. Oh my gosh. And so of course I feel like that now when I'm trying to do such a big thing and trying to help so many other people, it's just, who am I, right? So that was, I didn't have to talk to her. I felt like, and there was so much more and I can't even cover it all. But I felt like I had months worth of counseling done in like 30 minutes staring at this little red pointer, which is super random. Oh my gosh, are you afraid of freedom? I'm getting off. Okay. Ask yourself that. Am I afraid of freedom? If so, why? Let's follow this for you now. Okay, that was my little short story. But this is about you now. Am I afraid of freedom? Ask yourself that. Do you feel any sensations in your body when you ask yourself that? Am I afraid of freedom? Let's talk about that a little bit. And what have you tried to do to better yourself, to have a breakthrough in some area, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, relationally? I might have repeated one there. I don't know. What have you tried and failed at? Like you didn't see the results you were wanting to see, or you didn't have the breakthrough you were trying to have. What is that for you? Maybe it's a diet or an exercise program. Maybe it's counseling. Maybe it's taking supplements. I know with the supplements, well, I know for me personally, I started seeing, maybe I'm afraid of healing. Maybe I'm afraid of freedom because I had a list of supplements prescribed to me by my doctor to support me with some deficiencies that I had, as well as with my emotional roller coaster that I was riding for my life, right? And man, I struggled to take them every day. Simple thing, just take the doggone supplements. Real easy to do, not a big commitment, but I struggled taking them every day. And I knew that I saw benefits from taking them consistently, right? Oh, I have a couple comments here. Let me see if I can read them. Hey, Crystal, do you think libertine freedom is the same as bondage to sin? More details there. I don't see your name because I'm using a streaming service, but give me more details about your question there. I don't know what libertine freedom is. Get back to my, okay. So I struggled taking my supplements. And it was kind of self-sabotage. And I started seeing that pattern in other areas of my life. For instance, is staying awake late. It's self-sabotage. I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm setting myself up to be more short-tempered the next day or to be more emotionally driven the next day. I'm setting myself up to be less focused and have more anxiety the next day. So it's kind of, so what, if you look at these different things, ask yourself, like, what if it works? What if it works? What is, if you go to counseling with your spouse and it works, are you ready to recommit in that relationship? Or do you have so much resentment and frustration built up and unforgiveness that you kind of don't want to go to counseling? You kind of don't, it would be hard. It'd be another kind of hard. What if you're, I don't know, like your exercise program or your diet, it works. Are you ready to live a life, committed to, what if you go to the doctor and they tell you you're gluten intolerant? Are you avoiding going to the doctor because, not eating gluten could give you way more energy or could help you finally, lose the extra weight that your doctor said you need to lose, but you'd have to stop eating your favorite food. Right? What if it works? What if going to the doctor works, but you have to sacrifice something else? Maybe you're self-sabotaging yourself, not going to counseling, not taking your supplements or your medicine regularly, not seeing a doctor because you're afraid it'll work and you'll have to deal with that reality at that point. Even if it's a better reality, the unknown is scary for us. So sometimes we self-sabotage. Sometimes we self-sabotage because we're afraid of it working, right? What is the benefit of failing, right? If I never, and I had to realize this with my depression, I think it was a really huge part of me overcoming it. And, depression has different roots for everyone. So I'm sharing my story. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not accusing. I'm not saying something that is an absolute. For me, I think one of the many pieces of the puzzle for me was realizing, man, I don't know myself without my depression. And if I can't say, like, I don't know. I feel like I still needed the days in bed away from the kids. And I'm trying to be careful because I don't want anyone to think this is my story. Okay. I had to let go of identifying with it. It had a benefit to me. The depression had a benefit to me because I could say, I'm not who I want to be because I struggle with depression, always have. And for a while, I thought maybe I always will, right? And the benefit to me, we'll just stick with the sleep. The benefit to not going to bed on time is, well, in the morning when I'm short with the kids, I can blame it on, well, I don't get enough sleep. I haven't gotten enough sleep in 6 years, right? Rather than, okay, I've been going to bed consistently at a good hour, at a good time, and I have the energy that I need, and I just snapped at my kid because there's some trauma there, there's some triggers there that I need to pay attention to. I need to dig up, I need to uproot, I need to get to God, I need to do work on, right? So what is the benefit to you failing? What is the benefit to you not being successful? And then ask yourself, That's not the right one. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Okay, so what if I'm wrong often is a question that can send us into anxiety, right? What if I'm wrong about this decision that I have to make, this big decision? What if I'm wrong about my friend who I think wronged me? What if I'm wrong about, I don't know, this new diet that I'm starting? Maybe it's not what's healthiest for me. What if I'm wrong about what I believe about God? What if I'm wrong about this or that? Sometimes those questions can send us spiraling, but maybe we need to ask ourselves, we can flip around the benefit question that we were just asking. Okay, so if I, if I don't go to bed on time, if I go to bed on time, then I won't have an excuse in the morning. You don't think this way consciously at first. You have to really work and dig and do the hard inner work to even get to the point where you're admitting that you're self-sabotaging, right? But then say, what if I'm wrong? What if me having all this energy, or what if us going to counseling together as a married couple, or whatever, what if this leads to something great, right? Like, what if I'm wrong? What if the outcome is going to be better than I could ever imagine? Okay, so these are the breakthroughs that I had yesterday in my own personal life. I wanted to share them today. Are you afraid of freedom? Ask yourself, like, what if it works? Whatever I'm trying to do to up-level my life, to better myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, what if it works? What does that make me feel inside? Do I have a little level of anxiety about me being healed? Do I identify with my sickness? Do I identify with my stronghold? So much so that there's fear and anxiety about letting it go completely. And then what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about what the other side looks like? And so you've identified this fear or limiting belief, but now what, right? So like, you've identified that this is something that you struggle with, that you self-sabotage, that you have some anxiety or fear about healing or freedom, because you've only ever known yourself as an anxious person. You've only ever known yourself as a depressed person. You've only ever known yourself as, I don't know, and as a Baptist, or as someone who's Pentecostal. You've only ever known yourself as a non-believer or a believer. You've only ever known yourself as this certain way. What do you do when you realize that, and that you see the resistance you have towards freedom and healing? In our group, Functional Faith, join us in our group for our live show this Friday to learn how to uproot it and finally start experiencing results in your physical, mental, and emotional life. We're going to talk about how you can uproot these limiting beliefs, these fears, these anxieties, uproot these things that are holding you back in life, yourself at home, alone, how you can do that for yourself and start moving forward towards that freedom and having breakthrough in these different areas of health and wellness that you want to have breakthrough in. All right, I'll see you there. It's the group, Functional Faith. It'll be this Friday. If you're not a member of the group, it's in my bio on my personal page, or you can just look it up, Functional Faith. Make sure you're in our group. All right, thanks. See you then.